So a very warm welcome for those until we last for the final participants to join us. I ask you to use your mobile for this session because it's going to be interactive. And because here in the rooms at ETH there is no mobile connection, you need to be connected to the VLAN within this room. So I've been taught that all your students, you already know, you have an access to the VLAN. All the guests who are not in the VLAN, please go to a VLAN connection and you can register in the public. So the VLAN net is called public, and there you can enter, you have to enter your mobile number. You're going to receive a code, but because this takes a couple of minutes, so you have to wait until the code of SMS is going to receive you, because I've said the mobile connection is relatively slow in here. So try to connect to your VLAN or to the public. It's called VLAN public. And there you can enter your mobile number, and then you receive via SMS a code. And if you enter that code, then you're connected. So does anybody has not yet found the VLAN? Okay, so then we are already set to go. So a very warm welcome from my side. My name is Willy Bischofsberger, and I'm very happy to have been invited by VIScon. Actually, I was a computer science student many years ago as well. VIS already existed at that time. Only the Informatic Alumni Club did not yet exist, and that was the reason why I founded it together with a colleague of mine. But being among you, the students, is very nice for me, because that's where entrepreneurs can be created. And that's actually my goal, my contribution to create entrepreneurs out from the computer science studies. And VIScon, we discussed what could be an interesting topic that I speak with you about, and we selected this: how to create an online marketplace with sustainable high profits. So that's the topic of today, and I quickly introduce, and because I want to have it a little bit interactive, I would like you to now to use your mobile, which is connected to the VLAN here, and you can either use the right way and then be connected. And then if you're connected, you can push that thumbs up sign so that we see that you all have a connection to it. Otherwise, if you lose your connection during the presentation, you will have on the top, you will always have this sign. You can also go into menti.com and you have to enter this code number. So everything's fine. There is still one question mark. Does it? Okay. Then just go. Okay. Then just go. Thumbs up, and then we are fine. Very good. Everything worked. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then we want to discuss, or I want to discuss with you, 3 critical questions in this topic. Well, first of all, what exactly is an online marketplace? Just that we all have the same definition of what we are going to speak about today. Second, why are online marketplaces, such an attractive startup ideas for computer science engineers? And thirdly, how do you create a successful one, and especially one with sustainable high profits? So these 3, if I want to fulfill my task, the goal is really that you have answers to these 3 questions of today's lecture. I myself, as I said, I studied computer science at ETH some 30 years ago. I did an MBA later on, and I'm a multiple entrepreneur. So that means one after the other, I founded a company, which after 10, 15 years, I was successfully sold. and part of that fortune I reinvested in the next ones, and I sold again, and so on and so on. So that's what we call a multiple entrepreneur. And actually 4 out of the 7 startups I created are marketplaces. So the first I switched because it's a pure consulting company. The second one, Energiepool Schweiz, is really a platform which allows green electricity producers to hook on and to sell their green electricity, so made by photovoltaic or wind or other things, and the consumers, basically not yet the small consumers, because the market is not completely liberalized in Switzerland, but the big consumers like Microcoop to use that electricity in their whole consumption portfolio. So this is one of the marketplaces. The second one is Hotel Card, where hotel can offer their cold baths, which they could not sell otherwise, to frequent travelers. So again, an electronic marketplace for all over Switzerland, which is called Hotel Card. You might have heard of it as well. Now, Rebalance is another thing, but not a platform. Swiss Renewable Marketplace is again a marketplace for renewable energy. So my specialty in industry-wise is really electricity. Now, the second one is extended. It's not just renewable electricity, but it's also renewable other energies, also for heating, for cooling, not just for electricity. And finally, my new energy is, together with Comparis, we created forecasting that the electricity market is going to be liberalized for all consumers, that also small consumers can, like your insurance, your malady insurance, you can select an electricity tariff. You can compare all the different electricity tariffs, not just in terms of costs, but also in terms of ecological value, and then select and purchase the best price and deal platform. So these are a couple of marketplaces, probably not very well known, but very high profitable in their niche, either geographically or industry sector wise, and so that you see a little bit what is my background. At the same time, I'm a member of the Business Angel Association here in Zurich. This is one of the oldest ones where all the startups come, pitch their ideas, and we are typically, as more seniors, are going to invest and help these startups to become successful. I do the same thing at the organization in the Silicon Valley. I'm a board member of Löwenberg. This is a co-working space in the Canton Graubünden where we can offer the startups a free co-working space, completely free until break even. So if ever in your future you have a need for that, then you're more than welcome to apply and to get in touch with me. You have my email address below here. If you want to see me sooner before you start up, I give a lecture together with Dr. Marc Michael Brandis, which I mentioned before. He was my study mate, my friend at ETH when we studied computer science 30 years ago. And he has the lecture which is called Case Studies from Practice. I think it's running right now, and it's also in the next semester. So if you're interested, it's only for computer science students to participate. Just check in your lecture books for this name, Dr. Marc Michael Brandis, and you can sign up for this lecture. I will have 2 sections, 2 days, where I'm going to present the lessons learned from 150 IT startups from ETH alumni, so really the key success factors. And out of this study, which I prepared and I develop every year, there were mainly 2 insights. I mean, to have high profitable margins, you either are specializing in one technology, one specific technology, but so that it's sustainable, profitable, you have to patent it. And to patent the technology in IT is very difficult, at least in Switzerland, almost impossible, but you can do it in the US. So this is one way to go for startups, and the other way is to create marketplaces. And today's topic, so it's not about patenting a new IT technology, it's just for the second part is these marketplaces and for this high profitability. Now, because I felt, I'm a creator of little marketplaces in niches, I wanted to bring you also some insights of more well-known marketplaces. And I get in touch with Martin Kall, who also contributed to the lecture of today. He has been for 11 years the CEO of Tamedia, which today has been renamed in TX Group, and also in the TX Group, he's now vice president of the board. Before he was at Ringier, and the reason why I asked him, it's because the media industry is heavily investing in these marketplaces. And why is that? Because the classical print media, the Tagesanzeiger, 20 Minuten, all on print, they lose all their advertising, so they really have a revenue issue because all the advertising has shifted from physical prints into the online business, like Google social media or also all these platforms. So, and whereas before, if you were looking for an employee, you had an ad in the Tagesanzeiger. Nowadays, you go on jobs.ch. So that's why all this, they call it classified. So this means little ads in the newspapers. This has been transferred everything online. That's why today TX Group and also Ringier, they operate together this jobs.ch, the biggest market platform for open positions. You have in the real estate, you have HomeGate or ImmoScout. So already here you see they are competing. TX Group with Ringier, both at different platforms. Then you have the small ads with Ricardo, Tutti, Anibis. I mean, these are in these verticals where you can sell and buy different, typically used things. Then the car industry, used car especially, is the Car for You or the AutoScout24. Now TX Group bought Doodle and tries to make it profitable. They have a hard time with it, but at least it's a global one, not just a national one. And Ringier is also engaged in DeinDeal, Geschenkidee, Ticket Corner, Finance Scout, and so on. So Martin Kall really has a knowledge about having they haven't created them themselves. So what typically the big companies they'll all look around what has been created and they buy it immediately before the market share is completely has arrived already at its end, typically at an early stage to buy it. And Dr. Fabian Schulz, he gave me also input to this presentation because he's a partner at Simon Kucher & Partner, a very famous strategy and marketing consultant specialized in the beginning in pricing. And pricing has a lot to do with marketplaces. So all the marketplaces are considering how do we price our services? Is it a freemium model? Is it the app in purchasing? What is the best revenue model to create a maximum revenue stream out of it? Now he, compared to Martin Kall, he looks more at global marketplaces or more international ones, and that's why I asked him also to contribute. You see here the list. Most of them are probably familiar with you: Alibaba, AliExpress, Amazon, Prime, this Bill Basin. It's a real estate platform in almost everywhere also, but not in Switzerland. Booking, check, some of them you know also, eBay, Facebook, Google, all these kind of platforms from the big threes: Gumtree, RS, Instagram, Komoot, LinkedIn, Microsoft Suits, Mobile Motors, Motortalk, Music Notes, Netflix, OpenTable, Paper, etc. You see many well-known names and the insights that he had from consulting these companies he gave to this presentation as well. So these for the introduction from myself. Please, if you have questions, I not only take questions at the end, I also take questions in between. You can push this question mark button, which shows up in your mobile, and then I see and can take questions if you have those. Now let's go into the topic, the three questions. The first one, what is an online marketplace? Now it's a relatively simple definition. An online marketplace is typically a platform or an app which you can use on computer or on mobile devices, which brings together several suppliers with several customers. And the important thing is that both sides are in plural. It's not one supplier selling to many customers. That would be called the e-commerce channel. So if Migros sells all its product also on Migros online, on the supplier side, you have just one bubble, which is Migros, and on the customer side, you have all of us who might buy from Migros online. So we are not going to cover this because this is called e-commerce from a company where you have only one supplier offering it. Now, obviously, the world is mixing. For example, Amazon started with books. So they sold their books, they have bought, they have purchased. So in the beginning, Amazon, there was just one bubble. We have Amazon, many Amazon customers. It was an e-commerce platform. But nowadays, Amazon allows many other traders to offer their product, their services on their Amazon platform, and to use, obviously, all their big customer base on the end. And in fact, Amazon today makes more revenue out of the third-party products and services. So in that sense, Amazon today is not just an e-commerce channel, but it's also a marketplace because it offers the same thing with Alibaba, Alipay, AliExpress, with several suppliers to several customers. So this for the definition. Is it understandable what we understand with marketplaces?
Is there a mixed name for platforms? For example, I think like Digitech sells products from other companies.
Yeah.
So is this e-commerce or is this an online market?
Okay, it depends. If they buy the products and they stock it and they store it and they own the products in their stock, then that's an e-commerce because they're reselling. They're a trader. They bought and they're reselling the things that they already bought. But if they have no stock, if they just let you in, I mean, if you have a kind of, if you have invented a new bottle of hygiene, of COVID liquidity, then you offer that, but you do the shipping. You just take the orders, the payment, they develop the payment, but that you do the shipping then. I think they start to do that. Obviously, they try to copy as well Amazon, and they think about why, we don't want to take all the risk of all the purchases. Why don't we open it? It makes it attractive for all the consumers, not just to buy our products in our stock, but also maybe others, especially if they're niche product, if they're very specialized product, and so on and so forth.
So Digitech has the option to sell. So I can sell my old computer or some parts of it via Digitech.
Is that already today?
Yes.
Okay.
So that makes it.
Exactly.
Little thing makes it already an online marketplace.
Yeah, I would, there is a gray shadow, but probably I think Digitech makes 90% of revenue of its own. This is just a reuse of the thing, but I think it's very small. So I would consider it more an e-commerce platform with a little value added that you can resell used things over their platform as well. But probably only for products which you purchase from them, or is it for general?
You can sell products which they would have in their own inventory anyway.
Okay.
Just used ones.
Oh, used ones. Okay. So that they don't have to re-evaluate them. Very good. Other questions? Now, if you have no questions, I have a question for you. Which additional marketplaces, online marketplaces, do you know? Now, take your mobile, think about it, and add the marketplaces that we haven't spoken now about. Where are you consumers? If you are a frequent consumer, then probably you have downloaded it already as an app on your mobile. Maybe you're also a producer or a seller of something, of a service, and you're looking for the other party. You probably realize it's not important whether you take capital letters or minuscule letters. You cannot write the point. .ch or .com doesn't work, so it doesn't take the dot in this Mentimeter application, but just write.
I have another question, if I may.
Sure,
So,
sure.
I saw one online marketplace called Twitch on here, which is people streaming, and I was wondering, the definition of online marketplace does not care about what kind of product.
Exactly. It can be a physical product. It can be a digital product. I mean, Netflix is also, as long as Netflix only do their own production, it will be more an e-commerce. But if they allow other digital products to be sold on their platform, that would be also a marketplace. Yeah. So it's digital. We come to that. It's typically physical products, digital products, or services. Very good. Thank you very much. Still, I see we are only 19 people in here, so some of you have so many ideas that the count is going up and up. Thanks a lot for your ideas. We come up, the next question I'm going to ask you, and you can already keep it in mind, what marketplaces have you in mind, or might you have in mind, that does not exist yet? Maybe you had this in mind, that's why you came here to attend this lecture, because at the end, if you have enough time, we can quickly speak also about the idea and how you want to set it up. But before I ask you about your ideas for a new marketplace, I'm going to show you the second questions, why these online marketplaces are such an interesting idea as a startup. And the answer is basically already in the first sentence, because of their sustainable high profits. That's the topic of this lecture. And why are they so profitable? Well, first of all, because the operation cost is relatively low. You only have to set up the IT of the platform, and the content comes from the suppliers or from the customers. You don't need to engage like in a newspaper channel. So advertising worked before that you had to employ journalists with relatively high salaries, generating all this content, all these articles that you're going to read, and the advertising was a little bit besides. And by coincidence, you also looked at the classified articles advertising in the newspaper. On the platform, you typically have no journalists who consume a lot of costs, but all the content is general. You only have to do the structuring, the way you have to, and that has to be a lot of thought that has to be put in, but you basically set up the platform and then the content is being provided from both sides. So that's why the costs on this currency, whether it be Swiss francs or US dollars or yen or whatever, euros, the cost is lower. I mean, obviously, every value has a cost and the value to the customer. And it's important that you have a high profit, that you put the price closer to the value to the customer than at your cost. If you put the price at your cost, then obviously you make no profits. The more you can put the price to the value of the customer, the more profits are you making. And whether you can put your price closer to the value or to the cost depends on the competition. So the more competition you have, obviously the customer switches to another platform which is cheaper, and cheaper and cheaper, and so you're competing against each other until everybody, and the ones with the lowest cost typically wins, and that's the one also with the highest volume. So that's a little bit this chicken and egg problem. But the interesting thing, because this content is being provided by your using customers, then if you are the number one, if you select a very small niche, whether in the product category, in the industry sector, or in a geography, if you select a niche and you become there the number one, then more and more suppliers, more and more customers are going to use your marketplace. And that means you create a so-called natural monopoly, because the value to each market participant is higher, not just because of your market platform, but because so many others are participating in this market space. So the more participants in the market space, the higher is the value for each. And this creates potentially a monopoly in a certain niche, either sector or geography. And this creates high barriers for followers or competitors. So once you're already number one, then even if it's known, and if it's known that you're very highly profitable, then it's very hard for another one to join you, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of advantage. And and he has to create, and until he has so many participants in the marketplace is very difficult. So to beat jobs in their segment is today almost impossible. And even if they detect that you created something intelligent, they might immediately redevelop it as well. They're so profitable with the high profits that they can do it and copy it relatively quickly. If they cannot do it because of technology, they buy your company. But that's also a good thing. We we come then to the end to it. So this is why, in general, looking for marketplaces, looking for your needs that you have as a private person, maybe also you started to work in a company for a practical training or other things, to look what are the needs, not just for private persons, but for companies where they want to sell or buy things, is a very good thing to keep ears and eyes open to the pains of companies and of private persons in these for different market spaces. So the prices can, if you are a monopoly, if you have the number one niche, you might not put the price too high at the beginning until you are at that position of the number one, and then you can set the prices closer to the value, and then you can make lots of profit, and that in a sustainable way. Obviously, you have to watch out all the new technology, all the competitors also coming, but if you're a competitor, you can fight them by implementing those advancements in that industry. And there are still lots of uncovered marketplaces which do not exist yet. So to summarize, you have to be and stay number one in your niche. You don't have to win the world, but you can select a niche, either geographical-wise, and geography can be even a town. So let's think about Uber. If Uber is the number one in Zurich, then it's hard to attack them because already most of the car drivers are providing their services via Uber, and you're using Uber because most of the cars are being hooked up there. But in another place, like in Hamburg, for example, Uber has no chance because they developed quickly a similar app, and there it's another app. So I think it's taxi.com or something. So they're relatively quickly. So Uber is a natural monopoly by town, whereas other marketplaces are a natural monopoly by nation, because most of the margin maxes, for example, jobs is a typically, you're looking for job 99% in the same country. There are always exceptions, international ones, but mainly. Also the taxis, you're looking for a taxi which brings you anywhere around in the area. You don't book one to drive you to Berlin, only with exceptions. So that's a little bit to be considered. So there are very small niches where you can become a market leader. Now there was a question. Yep.
So there's always this graph, right, where how much people would buy the product and how much it costs. And with the higher the cost, the less people want to buy the product. So
it's not the price. These are two different things. The cost is what it costs you to play. Okay, you mean the price. The higher the price, the less. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the price. How much the people are willing to pay, and how low you can bring it, right? And you have the more expensive, the less people are going to buy. And is there any other way than trial and error to find the optimal value for your product?
Exactly.
Or do you have or do you make a graph and try to model it?
Yeah. Okay. You can engage a consultant like Simon Kucher, who shared now all his insight for free. I mean, there are consultants who are specializing on them. Obviously, they have lots of industry experience otherwise. You can have questionnaires with customers. The problem with questionnaires is always what they say, is it actually what they do as well? And then the best way probably is A/B testing. And in a digital world, that's very nice. We do typically, we make an offer for 100 or 1,000 customers, which are coincidentally selected with ones, and then you see a little bit what the margins are, and like that you can set the price at an optimal thing. However, in a marketplace, it's more considerable to do it attractive, to populate the marketplace relatively quickly, even do it for free. Or you might have investors who pay you to do that, or you might also do spidering, already collect all the already given information on the internet, which is free on the internet. This is allowed. This for a long time it was not clear, but the highest court in Switzerland allowed that. I don't know about all the jurisdiction in Europe where it's allowed, as long as you put the source from the information. So you can have an ad for, let's say, just jobs for teachers. and you can put a new marketplace just for teachers. You can grab all the ads that are out there for free just to populate it already. Obviously, then you don't participate in the revenue stream, so but at least you have populated your marketplace already. So populate it cheaply, quickly, to become number one is very important. Okay, if there are no further questions, yeah?
Follow up on this. So say you are populating it and you're providing it for free, and then suddenly you need to make the shift to increase the price.
Exactly.
At some point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with it? I mean, or what would be your recommendation? Some people say, all right, just let it be at the lower price or for free for the early birds, but only increase prices for new customers.
Most of them do it for free at the beginning, and then after a certain point, they add the price. They might keep it as a freemium model, so to let users use a base functionality for free, and to segment the market then for those who value the service lower and who use it less frequent, still for free, but those who use it more frequently and have more functionality and more things and more convenient use that, they do it on a higher level. Okay, this is one of the study of Simon Kucher, who again proves that your profit margin is higher if your market share is higher. It's something which is obviously, if you have 80% market share, then obviously your profit expressed as a percentage of revenue, then obviously is also higher. So when we analyze together with my two friends all the different platforms, then you can sort them by different industry. You can say, there are platforms in relationships, for example, Tinder.com, or jobs, like jobs, real estate property, vehicles, Auto Scout, fashion. We try to select the most famous ones so that you have an idea of what we're talking about. Financial services, I mean, this is really growing at the moment, especially in Switzerland, where the financial services, you can subdivide it, financial services, into insurances, which is, for example, Comparis, or also payments in like Twint, or private banking, or like Swissquote, so the platform where you can buy shares from companies and sell them. Then there is hotels and the travel industry. There is horizontal platform where you can buy and sell almost everything. There is second-hand platform, Ricardo, Tutti, as we said before. There is presents, Geschenkidee, events, tickets. There's electricity, there is wines, there is watches, there is photographs, photo. These are digital products, not physical one, and other services, just to mention. It's not a complete list, but it's one way to think about different market spaces. Now, what they all have together, we all know them because we are final users of them. And what I want to give as a giveaway for you, be aware also of B2b businesses. Because typically what happens that so in an industry, if you have a market space here and we are all the consumers down there, obviously in order that the marketplace can sell those, there might be also different suppliers here, but the value chain goes further. There is another other marketplace like here, where those are producers, and here again, where those are producers. Let's say in the wine industry, you have the producer of the wine, then you have the traders, the retailers with the shops, the restaurants who are reselling, and then we have the industry. So we call this a value chain. So typically in all the industry, from the very beginning, there is typically a 5 to 6 to 7 step value chain of the things. We all speak always about here because we know it as a consumer. But there are many market spaces also here, and they're called B2b. B2b, because they're where the, well, yeah, no, that's to say. Where the B, this is the producer, the wine producer sells to another B, like the like the retailers or the restaurants and so on. There are 2Bs. And you will see we tend to think about marketplaces as a consumer, but financially attractive, and I think a lot of undiscovered marketplaces exist in the B2B sector, whereas this marketplace, we call it a B2C. So B2B and B2C are two different categories. And what I showed before is really a categorization in different industries, but all in these industries, I put the example of the B2C marketplaces just to put an example of a representative. But behind all of this industry, you have lots of B2b marketplace potentials, which still are being undiscovered. Some of them are also not very well known because obviously we're not a business. We're not buying as a businesses, but there's lots of potential because businesses typically, the big difference between consumers and business, the businesses typically have much more money than we have at our disposal as a private person. So for that reason, it's always much more attractive to at least to have a marketplace which has at least one B in it, because that's the one you can charge with your price. So all the B2C platforms, you can, jobs, for example. So the company who advertises a job, they have to pay for it. But you as a job seeker, you don't have to pay, it's for free. And the reason why is that because you have less money than the company who can pay it. So charge on the B side, have the price on the B side. So that's why the best is having a B2B business, because then you can charge on both sides. So this is another categorization, and this brings me to the 11 key success factor, and that's the key slide of this presentation. So if you analyze all these market platforms, what is really the key drivers? What drives them? So if I ask them you as the next thing, what your ideas has, you must have a lot of ideas, and many of them are not so good. So you must have a lot of ideas to find then a very good one, and select all of the ideas. You can take these 11 selection criteria in order to sort them out, to select which ones is a better idea or is a worse idea. So first of all, the first selection criteria is the pain of the market participant, so of the suppliers and the customers. Is there pain to buy on your marketplace? Is it important? Is it urgent for them? Is it frequent? Do they use it frequently? Do they have no circumvention problem to do a match, but after that, the second time they buy directly from the one they found on your marketplace? And can you make it in a way which is much more convenient for the customer than to do it nowadays? For example, I had a friend who said, I would like to have a motorboat on the Lake of Zurich. Now, there are tons of owners of motorboats, but typically they're not used at all. They're used 0.5% of the time. So why not these motorboats owner are offering their motorboats? Not everybody does, but some of them do then on a market platform to offer these things. So these are the kinds of new ideas in special vehicles for special purposes and now again, is it important? Yeah, it's a nice to have to go on a ride on a motorboat. Is it urgent? Yeah, on nice weather maybe. So you already see, do you frequently use it? 1, 2, 3 times a year. Maybe some of them do it every weekend if you're really addicted. But if you're really addicted, you might buy a motorboat by yourself. So you see already a little bit if you have this idea, you might have a better idea to have a sustainable high marketplace. So this is the first criteria according to which you can validate your idea of a marketplace. The second one we already discussed. This is the type of the business. Is it really a B2C marketplace? Is it a B2B marketplace? We covered those two. There is even better ones, a B equal B. B equal B means that a business could at one point in time could be a seller of something, but at the other point of time could be a buyer. And these are the most attractive one, or the C2C. So if at this market participant are not being split on the supplier and the seller, but the supplier can be the customer as well. So for example, in the B2B, it's, I think a computer science student also had this idea. He made a practical training in a company which was using used plastic, so for bottles and other things. So they used plastic to create the bottles, but at the end of the production process, they had also garbage plastic they could not use by themselves because of whatever. There were different kinds of plastic criteria that you have to know of. They could not use that, but they could resell it to others. So he had the idea to create a marketplace for used plastic, reusable used plastic. So at the same time, companies can be seller of their excess plastic as well as consumer if the quality is in a way that it can be reused. So this is a typical example of a B2B marketplace, where you can really become a market leader in a certain region. Another, a C2C, would be Doodle. Doodle, you sometimes have a need for making a date. You invite people, they create a date. The first time you're being invited, you say, oh, what a nice idea, this Doodle. I might use it by myself, and the next time I want to have a beer with a couple of friends, and you're using. So that's a C2C. You see, in Doodle, typically, you have less businesses. It was created as a consumer or employer of a company who want to make state. That's why C2C is, even it's very easy to populate and to be spread out. It's really going viral, so that by using it, you advertise the service to others who might use it as the sell. So that's why these equal things are very nice marketplaces. But because there is no B in it, it's hard to create revenue. How much would you pay Doodle? I mean, they have a kind of premium payment Doodle, but it's difficult to get enough revenue stream. So it's always better if you have several ideas to find the optimal way, a B=B marketplace. For that, probably it's a little bit difficult as a student, no problem. But once you're out there, maybe you start not immediately as an entrepreneur, but you go out in industry, you're being confronted maybe of your families, with your uncle, with whoever you want, are familiar with a certain industry. Ask them what they can sell and what they can buy, and if there is an opportunity for either a B2B or a B2=B business. Ownership is a third. As I said, you can have a sell side. This is the Amazon case. Typically, as a startup, you start as an independent, and if you're successful, you might have an exit and sell the company then to a buyer or a seller side.
What would be an example for a B2B2C?
Very good. If you have a B2C, then you could think about how to create from a B2C a B2B2C. So, for example, I had a friend of mine who wants music, Matchspace Music, is it called? So they offer a platform for musicians to find pupils, so to teaching lessons for 100 different instruments in Switzerland, also singing and so on. So that was difficult because they were already professional. They might have created a little company. In that sense, it would be a B, but obviously the musicians, they don't have so much money, so it's a kind of C2C. It's also a C who has no money, and the one who wants to take selection also is not willing to pay too much for this matchmaking business. So what he tried to do is to make a B2B2C. So he went to the music, to the schools who educate these musicians and said, why don't you pay us a fixed price per month so that the students that graduate at your school can find then a job, can make their revenue out of it. So you must have an interest that this marketplace exists so that an optimal matchmaking between the consumers and the teachers can make place. So you try to find someone who has more money than the final customers who can pay for the service and has something added. Other questions? Yeah, then we have the industries. Typically, you go into a niche, only one sector, only one product services, and you don't try to create another Amazon, because that's a too big thing to start with. Even Amazon started just with books and then took it step by step. The product, as said, is not important. You start with something physical. That makes it a little bit more complicated because of the logistics. But because you're just a marketplace, then typically the logistic is being handled by the supplier. You do just the matchmaking, and the supplier then ships directly to the customer. So you don't have, even with physical product, you don't have to care about logistics. Then you have digital products and services. Population strategy, there are different ones. We mentioned spidering, metaportale. You can create something which spiders already everything which exists there, and do additional selection or filters about it. There is also a letter of intent. That's, for example, how we populated Hotel Cart. We went to different hotels and said we want to make this market space. It's free, absolutely free for you, and you don't have to even make something, but you have to sign up. If we manage to sign up 200 hotels to start with, then you sign up that you're going to participate as well. And so that's what we did then. The player in the value chain. Are you a new player, an intermediate, replacing an existing player? That's also something that I think in many industries you have the whole value chain. Replacing an intermediary by a marketplace, that's a very good strategy. That's a kind of disrupting a market, because the information is already there. You don't have to create a new market, but you have to digitalize already existing market, which is probably one of the most excellent ideas, because the knowledge about the market is already out there. And then obviously, if you can have an idea whether your margins are higher or lower, then obviously you go for the higher margins, the higher profits. The price finding mechanisms, there can be different ones. I think it's not said that one price mechanism is better than the other ones. It can also change over time, and so it's not really a criteria to select one idea or the other one. And the range, the geography that you select, you typically start more local one, not just try to win the world and then multiply to different cities or to different locations, one after the other. So start small and think global, that you can expand it then in a later stage. So this is about what we found out, what are kind of the cookbook recipe of how to create, why marketplaces today are more or less profitable or more or less successful. And I think this is a good idea, especially if you are thinking about doing something either immediately after studies or later on as well, that you can use this selection criteria. So as mentioned before, I want to ask you now, are there ideas that we can, I think we still have 6-7 minutes to speak about your ideas. Are there ideas from your side that you would like, that we quickly go through these 11 selection criteria? You can enter it also on the media.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So since you said the goal is to get like number one, be the monopoly.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to start a business where already someone is like in a certain niche or area. So it really has to be something new, unique.
Yeah. No, I meant by replacing an existing ones. I meant, if you walk around the streets and you see all these shops, replacing a physical marketplace by an online marketplace. That was what I meant, because many people are not familiar with how to digitalize these things. So if you take whatever kind of physical market space and you replace them by a digital one, that's what I said. That's what I meant. I mean, for example, the wine industry, all these shops of wines, it's nice to have them. It's an emotional thing, but what do you buy? They open just a couple of bottles there to really taste them. Otherwise, you have to buy the etiquette, or you go by the ratings of the wines. All this information is already there, so you can easily make an online marketplace for wines, for example, replacing all these existing wine shops.
Right, but like once there is already an online marketplace, it doesn't make sense to compete with.
Okay, I come to it. You can specialize with some. If you have special knowledge in IT, for example, if you specialized in computer vision, or if image recognition, or in voice generation, you can create, for example, in flats or in apartments, you can, if you manage to use your mobile and do a 3D envisioning of your apartment, and then you can upload that on a HomeGate platform. I don't know, HomeGate doesn't have it yet, huh? Or they have, okay. Yeah, they started. So if you have something really new in that respect, then obviously you can start by spidering and grabbing and creating a marketplace. If they're not fast enough, they might want to buy you then. Huh? So with new technology, you can do. Yeah.
Okay, so it's still like be first or be different.
Exactly, be different. You can even, not in with I realize also in this, the job market is the biggest one here in Switzerland. It's even more than used cars and things. The most revenue, highest profits. That's why they put together to be the monopoly, the Ringier and Tax Media. You can specialize, for example, just a teacher platform. I'm absolutely convinced if you create a teacher platform, you can be much better than jobs, because as a teacher you have specific qualifications that other job categories don't have. So if you add, like in a LinkedIn profile, you have the ability for the users as a teacher to have your profile to say exactly what you can, what certificate you can, what kind of lessons you can teach to pupils. Then you can have a much better matching mechanisms on that. And then you focus on something. Yeah.
There is already a marketplace for teachers.
There is a marketplace for teachers. Yeah, they're coming up. So look, that's exactly why it evolves, because of that. Yeah. Other ideas? Has someone inputted? Here. Mates for adventures. Yeah, exactly. I think there was one. See you there. Huh? I mean, meet people, other people. I mean, it's again a people's business. Is it C2C business? It's kind of hard. Who pays then for it? I think one had the idea to meet others at a bar, at the skiing resort, at some kind of service providers who might pay them to make a C2C, a C2B2C business. Who can pay that? That could be a good idea. Used machines, yeah, very good. Use second-hand machines, the B2B business. That can be as well. B equal B. You can sometimes have a used machine to sell or buy a used machine to buy. Excellent. So I think we have only 2 minutes, huh? Yeah, okay. So I just, as the final slide, I wanted to discuss with you a little bit your ideas. I mean, some of additional ideas which popped up in my mind is that I found these cold hotel beds. That's what Hotel Card is doing. By the way, if you want to use or to try this out, because it's my company, or it's I'm a shareholder in that company. I have some vouchers, so which I can give away for free. You want you to test, so then it's for free for you, and you can use these hotel beds. I think for 1 year. At their discount prices for 30 to 50%. This is one idea. Best rated wines, I think, arts, painting, photos, I think there's still medicine jobs, hairdresser appointments. I do. Some always want to go to same hairdressers, maybe more the ladies. We as men maybe don't care, just we have last minute, just someone who has availability. Maybe there's some hairdressers who give discounts if you match them. So this is something which popped up. Teachers, doctors, they might already exist. But there are many or more categories to be looked for. Tenant change for house homes. So if you're not a house owner, but you have if you want to leave your apartment in between the termination dates, you have to look for a new one. This is something probably which hasn't been managed well, or the vehicle subsegment, caravans, boats, old timers, where you specify your vehicle with more parameters than just a used car and create a marketplace there. The B2b reusable plastic, as I mentioned. Furniture, I think in furniture there is little. I mean, obviously you use the furnitures, but for the first matchmaking to look for, I think also that's again, and the genome database, that's more and more coming, how to select a genome for wife, for man to have children, a little bit a frightening future that maybe sex is not, natural sex is no more allowed or no more considerable, but more responsible if you select the best gains on any kinds of database. That's actually the startup in the Silicon Valley who raised the biggest amount of money, about 200 million last year, because they set up such a gene database out of the gene selection, which can be read since about 3 or 2 years, all the genes out of your genome. And obviously, again, there you participate because many others participate there as well to make the best match that you can. Frightening, but probably part of our future. Very well. So with these final remarks, I hope I could inspire you a little bit to show you what marketplaces are, it's an opportunity to become a new marketplace in a special niche. It's an excellent opportunity as a startup idea for you because it doesn't have to be patentable, but as soon as you are the number one in a specific niche, it can become and remain highly profitable in that sense. Thank you very much for your attention, and hope that you see you sooner or later in another lecture, or that you have a contact with me. Thank you.
We would like to thank you too to help on this.
Thank you.
It's just a small present.
Yeah, thank you.